What business lessons can we learn from a man who's created 7 highly successful companies in 4 different industries, wrote 2 best-selling business books, and he built his real estate empire all without a college degree or startup capital? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by our good friends over at Amp America. If you want all the news you need to know without the corporate media fluff and bias, head over to ampamerica.com. Also, if you want to go ahead and check out the awesome formula that is Cardio Miracle that's been powering both the Brian Nichols Show and yours truly, head to our show notes, or if you're joining us here on the video version of the show, head to the video description. You'll click the link. It'll bring you right over to cardiomiracle.com, where you will find, yes, the best heart health supplement in the world. Now, for those of you playing along in the home game, you've heard me on the show. I've lamented many a time that here I am. I work out 6 days a week. I had lost 180 pounds. And yet, I continue to have high blood pressure. And I found out, well, thanks, Mom and Dad, got a history of family high blood pressure. So I thought, oh, guess this is my lot in life. Doctor saying, Brian, do you want 3 prescriptions for your heart, for the blood pressure? And I said, I don't really want any prescriptions. So I tried Cardio Miracle, and folks, I was floored. Going from 140 over 90 consistently as my blood pressure to 120 over 80. Say what? I was completely blown away. My doctor was as well. And I got to tell you, a year now into the Cardio Miracle revolution, and I'm just absolutely floored. So folks, I want you to jump on board. Heck, I don't need you to jump on board. I really want you to. We don't really have many sponsors here on the show because I'm not going to promote anything unless I truly believe in it. And Cardio Miracle, I 1000% believe in it. But don't take my word for it. There's hundreds of other folks here in the Brian Nichols Show audience who have already jumped on board, experiencing the Cardio Miracle difference. And altogether, there's tens of thousands of folks out there who are also experiencing the benefits of Cardio Miracle right now. So jump on board, experience how nitric oxide, its secret ingredient, can actually help improve your heart health from lowering your blood pressure, improving those pumps at the gym, or heck, helping get a more restful night's sleep. All that and more can be found with Cardio Miracle. Plus, if you use code TBNS, you're going to get 15% off your order. And by the way, you got nothing to lose because there's a 100% money back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Head to the show notes, click the link in the description, head over to cardiomiracle.com, use code TBNS for 15% off your order. I guarantee your heart will thank you. All right, we paid some bills, and now I'm looking forward to talking to a guy who's going to help you pay some bills. And that's because he's figured out a way to do that without having to go, $250,000 into debt, going to college, no degree, no problem, because this guy still ended up a multimillionaire many times over with multiple companies. Joining me here on the Brian Nichols Show to talk about all that and more. We're going to make it easy for you guys. Brian Will, welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How you doing?
Good morning, Brian. Holy cow. I feel like I need to do some jumping jacks to keep up with your energy here.
Well, it's the Cardio Miracle, if I do say so myself, Brian. No, I'm just teasing. Brian, thanks for joining today. Looking forward to talking all things business, sales. But before we do that, do us a favor, introduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience. And how did you find yourself in this world of business without a degree?
Oh my gosh, Brian, my story starts way back from the kid who failed out of high school, did manage to graduate with a 1.2 GPA, got kicked out of the house at 18, had to join the military because I had no place to sleep. Got off active duty, tried to work, kept getting fired, and I thought, I'm a terrible employee. I might as well work for myself. So I started my first business when I was 21 in landscaping. Failed on a huge scale by the time I was 30. Had to start all over again, and went on to build companies worth nearly $1 billion at their peak. So it's been a long, interesting journey.
I love it. Well, no money, no education, no clue.
No clue. Yeah.
Right. That's where most folks, I think, they enter into the, well, where do I go from here mindset? Right. And let's talk about that, because that's very much where you were. And yet you write this book, The Dropout Multimillionaire, and you have 37 business lessons that you were able to learn as you went, throughout your life, throughout your career. So I know we're not going to go through all 37 today, Brian. Heck, that's why you have a book out there for folks to go ahead and purchase, which we'll include that link at the end here as well as in the show notes. But maybe we could touch on a few of these different lessons that you've uncovered over the years. And, especially for folks who, much like you were, no money, no education, no clue. Where do we start?
I always tell people that wherever you start, there are going to be at least 100 lessons you're going to have to learn before you get to whatever success level it is that you want to achieve. I call it the 100 steps of success. The challenge that most people have that go into business is they don't understand how many of the 100 steps they've got to climb before they're going to get where they want to go. And I'll say, look, if you start out with education and money and the right parents and contacts and people that are going to help you, you might only have to go the last 10 steps to get up to step number 100 to be successful. You might have to start at step 50. Me, I started at step 0, right? My first book was called Starting Life at Zero. I had to learn every single one of those lessons. The reason people fail is not from a lack of education. It's from quitting before they learn all of the lessons they personally need to learn, which, by the way, is different than the lessons you need to learn or I need to learn. They quit before they learn the lessons they need to learn to get where they want to go in life. And that is really the ultimate secret of success. You just keep pushing forward until you've learned all those lessons, and it will work for you. Too many people just quit.
Brian, why do people quit though? Is it because it's too hard? Is it because they don't have the roadmap of success? Like what is the reason that people drop the ball so quickly?
They can't see it. They can't see what's in front of them because success is this invisible thing that's out there and you don't know how far it is. You don't know how many steps you have to. Look, I tell this story all the time. I had sold my first company and started my second, and I had a business partner. We started a third company. Actually, we started number 2 and number 3 together. And he had been very successful in the internet space, and I hadn't. And I like to joke, he was worth $20 million and I was worth $20. And I remember after a full year, we dumped $500,000 in this business and it was failing. We hadn't generated any revenue. And he came in my office one day and he said, hey, we're going to put more money in. And I remember telling him, you don't understand. We're not making money. We're failing. He goes, don't worry, it's going to work. I'm like, no, Steve, you don't understand. We're failing. It's not going to work. And he goes, it's going to work, Brian. And I said, but it's not. And he said, listen, I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You give me all my equity back. I'll erase the $500,000 debt from your name. We'll go away as friends. I don't want money to stand between us, but you got to make a decision right now. But I'm telling you, it's going to work. I've done this before. And I sat there and stared at Steve for about 2 minutes. And finally I said, all right, Steve, if I'm going down with you. So I'm in. And he said, all right, good. And I never want to have this conversation again. 18 months later, we sold that company for $80 million. And I was one decision away because I couldn't see it. And he can. I couldn't see it. And if I'd have gone the other direction, my whole life would be different. And this is why most entrepreneurs fail. They can't see it. And the secret is to bring somebody in to help you who can see it, who understands what you need to see and can tell you, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, and you will succeed. You just got to keep moving forward. But people can't see it and they get blinded by fear and they quit.
You talked about bringing in a mentor. It's funny. You mentioned that. I just brought in another mentor just like 2 weeks ago. And I probably have oodles of mentors at this point that I'm picking their brains, but there's, one person in particular I'm meeting with at least like once a week. And I think what you just articulated, Brian, is exactly where I personally, for the past like 5 years, I've been making incremental steps. And here, audience, we'll peek behind the curtain. We'll get super real right now, right? I was making steps both for the audience and growing the show, as well as, my personal and professional life. I have my day job. We're doing great there. I have my side hustles that I've helped start up as well for side businesses. They were doing okay, but it just felt like I was crawling, right? But I want to be running. I used to be a big fat guy. I was done being the crawler. I wanted to get up and actually get out there and hit the NOS, start to sprint, to get to where I wanted to go. And yet I just found myself, Bryce, sitting here and being like, man, I just feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall. I don't feel like I'm making the progress. And then, much like you mentioned, I brought in a mentor, a third party, to kind of sit down with me, talk and walk through what I've been doing. And he goes, Brian, you've been doing your show for 6 years and you went from a show that didn't exist to now you're in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally.
Mhm.
you're making headway. You're having the success. It's just to my naive perspective, I didn't see the success. So right there, Brian, is it partially that people like me who are in the middle of, almost in the middle of the battle, right? You're in the middle of the war. You're surrounded by the fog and the chaos that we don't see success because we don't know what to look for, as you said, but also the fact that we just haven't had that success that we think we need to see in order to validate that we're on the right path.
It's interesting. The reason we talk about bringing in a mentor or a coach is because most entrepreneurs have what we call 30-degree blinders on, right? And they're looking 30 degrees in front of them, and that's all they see. They're laser focused and they're driving forward. The mentor coach has a 360-degree view from floor to ceiling of everything that's going on because they're not blinded by your laser focus. And it's much easier for them to look around and go, okay, you need to do this or you need to do that. I use this example of a company that I'm consulting with right now. And it's not most of the time that people don't know how to do something. It's just that they're missing it because of that 30-degree blinder, or the old adage, you can't see the forest for the trees. I remember going into this organization, and the first week I said, hey, what about this one little thing over here? And they were like, well, what should we do with that? And I said, to give you an example, they had done 2,000 in-home appointments in the past year and only sold 600. And I said, what'd you do with the other 1,400 people that took the time to call you and set up an appointment and come out and have a salesperson come out to their house and get a price and they didn't close? What'd you do with those? And they're like, nothing. And I said, well, why don't we do this thing? We're just going to remarket them. And we took 200 names off of this list. They were over 90 days old and threw them into a dialer and called them. And we sold $500,000 worth of product in 2 weeks. Not because they didn't know what they were doing. It's simply because they had their 30-degree blinders on moving forward and they weren't looking around going, oh my gosh, there's money laying all over the floor here. We just got to pick it back up, right? We're leaving a trail of money behind us and we're not looking backwards. So coaches most of the time are just helping you realize things that you should already know that you're just not focused on at the moment.
Do you find, Brian, that people they're instinctually adverse to eliciting the help of a coach? Because
100%.
well, okay, and let me, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to ask my question because you said 100%. Why then? Tell me why.
Ego driven. It's ego driven. I'm the CEO. I have to have all the answers. People need to look to me. I should know what I'm talking about. I don't need help. And yet you look at every major corporation in this country. I love Apple. It's my example. And you look at Tim Cook. He runs one of the biggest, most popular, most profitable companies in the world. And yet he has a board of directors, much like every other company. And he has a personal coach. Now, and he's got to be a smart guy. If he needs a board of directors and a coach to help him run that business, what makes you think you can run your business all by yourself?
Bingo.
That's the mic
Truly.
drop.
No, it is a mic drop. But Brian, let's take that a step further, because one of the objections I hear from folks is like, well, Brian, it'll make it easy for this conversation. Brian, I don't know if I can invest this money into bringing in a coach. I need to focus on, my sales. I need to focus on the marketing. I need to focus on HR. I got to focus on payroll. Like, do I need to spend this dollars and cents on bringing in somebody? Like, can I just go online and find someone who did something similar to me? Like, isn't that an okay middle ground?
Yeah. So if you find somebody in your industry, let's just say, for example, that has a company 10 times bigger than you, would you want to spend some time with them asking them how they do it? That is essentially what a coach does. Now, when we talk about coaching, we talk about technical, tactical, and relational. Relational coaches are people that say, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on? What's going on with your employees? How are you doing with your family? How are you feeling? That's relational, or what we call mastermind type of environments. Then there's technical coaches. Like if I wanted to learn how to install windows and doors, I would go find somebody who'd install windows and doors and have them help me. That's a technical coaching person. And then there's tactical. Tactical coaching is business related. It's irrelevant to the industry. It is specific to the profit and loss statements, the sales organizations, the infrastructure, the operations, which is pretty much the same in any organization. So if you have somebody who has been much more successful than you at building internal operations and sales forces, why would you not want to bring them in and have them help you make yours better? Why would you not want to do that?
Do you have a coach?
I do. I've got several.
Tell us about that. How does that work for someone who has started 7 businesses? You've had the success. What does that look like on your end?
It's people that have been more successful than me in what I'm doing, right? So I'm building a community, a coaching community, or an entrepreneurial coaching community. So I have a coach that works with me on that. How do I do it? I'm right now working on marketing programs. So I hired a marketing coach to teach me how to do better marketing. This is more tactical types of stuff. And then I belong to another mastermind, and it is a bunch of guys who sit around and go, what the hell's going on with your business this week? Yeah, I had this problem. I had that problem. We get to commiserate with people that we call essentially our equals, right? As opposed to trying to talk to your employees or whatnot. So coaches are for a reason. Coaches are for a season, and it depends on exactly what you're looking for. And that's the person you need to go find, but just make sure they've had the success that in what you're doing so that they can actually help you. Too many coaches out there fake.
Oh yeah. That right there. I was just gonna, Brian, it's like you knew where I was going, because if you're a business owner and to your point, right? Like you don't know where to go. You don't know what you don't know. And you want to find a coach. It is so easy just to find, the I say snake oil salesman, but I mean, really look at the folks online who they create this appearance of, I know everything, I'm the expert. And yet you really do need to focus on the people who they have the skins on the wall to back up the words. So you mentioned looking at people who are, same type of business or same industry. What else should we be looking for when we're finding a coach? And by the way, I had no idea the conversation was going to go this way today, but I love this because coaching is so important, not just in the world of sales, in business, but also in the world of life, in politics, in sports, in personal fitness. Like coaching is something I think we really need to focus more on, but often gets overlooked. So what other things should we be looking for when we're trying to find a good coach?
So you have to really vet the person that you're going to allow to put information into your head, right? You cannot allow somebody to come in and try to coach you who has never had the success that you're looking to have. And it doesn't have to necessarily be success in what you do. If you're a plumber, you don't necessarily need a plumber to help you. You need somebody who has actually built an organization or built a business or built something that they exited, right? If you want to exit your business, like I have a very good friend who's co-writing my next book, who has done $1 billion in mergers and acquisitions in the landscaping industry. I promise you, if you have a big landscaping company and you want to exit and make a ton of money, you need to talk to my friend Jeff, because that's what he does. He will help you structure your company properly and get it ready and present it to a PE firm and get that thing sold. You need to find the right people that have the experience and the success doing what it is you're looking to do, right? That's really the key. And I love the old saying that, look, Tom Brady had a throwing coach, and Tiger Woods had a swing coach. They weren't people who were professional golfers or professional quarterbacks. They were just people that were really, really, really good at what they did, right? And we go back again to saying, if Tom Brady needs a passing coach, what makes you think you're going to be a quarterback and not have one?
And Tom Brady has probably still multiple coaches. Alex Guerrero is his close confidant, and he helped instill this new health-centric version of Tom Brady. He brought in, what was it called, pliability or whatever, make Tom Brady basically the football version of Gumby. So when he's out there playing at the age of 46, he gets sacked by a 304-pound defensive lineman, and he's able to get right back up and give him a high five and say, "Good hit, buddy, hit me again." And every other 46-year-old sitting on the couch saying, "Oof, I'm in the hospital for 4 weeks if that happens to me." And yet Tom Brady, multi-millionaire many times over. Now he's soon to be the co-owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, 6-time Super Bowl MVP. He still would meet with someone daily, consistently, to make sure that he was being coached on the things that mattered. And in his world, it was his health, his wellness, his flexibility, his pliability, all these little things that we might not think about. Like Tom Brady, to your point, he's out there throwing the ball on the practice field. He's listening to his quarterback coach. Quarterback coach is saying, "Brady, why'd you throw the ball over there? Didn't you see the defender, looping over from the backfield? Come on, what are you doing?" But that quarterback coach is not saying, "Brady, what did you have for dinner last night? Did you have the chicken breast or did you have the fried chicken? Which one was it?" And that right there speaks to why it is important not just to have, a just one size fits all coach, but I think taking it a step further, get rich in those niches, find people who can help push you to the next level in specific areas, not where you're just doing well, but also areas where you're struggling. Like I used to weigh 385 pounds, Brian, and I knew for a fact I was struggling with my health. So what did I do? I started looking for people who not only had lost weight, but also knew how to get healthy, how to, put the right food in your body, the right fuel, the right workouts, all that stuff. And it helped me to lose 180 pounds of fat. But if I had sat there day one being like, all right, 180 pounds of fat, we got to lose that. Where do I start? I would have been just in that proverbial boat spinning in the middle of the ocean for years, probably not knowing where to start. But the coach helped me not just see where to start, but then gave me the guidelines, helped give me the suggestions, the vision that I needed to really put in place, but also to know what success looks like. I want to bring that point home again, because I lost 10 pounds and I'm like, oh my God, okay, 10 pounds. I still have 170 to go though, 170 more pounds. Whereas my coach could be like, Brian, time out. You just lost 10 pounds. Let's celebrate, because that's a success. So I did want to just drive home that point, Brian, that it is important to not just have those coaches, but to allow them to help you get into the weeds, find areas that you're not doing too great, and allow them to help paint that picture, give you the guidelines, and also help you see what success looks like. That's so key.
I will tell you a couple of things. We talked about niching down and coaching. There's a guy named Dave Meltzer. You ever heard of Dave Meltzer?
Oh yeah, 100%. Dave's great.
Dave's a coach to 3 of the Fortune 50 CEOs, and he has a sleep coach. You want to talk about niching down? He has a guy he talks to several times a week, just teaching him how to sleep better. That's amazing. Gosh, I forgot where my second thing I was going to tell you was, so I got to think about it now.
Riches and the Niches, David Meltzer, anything in that world help spark it or no?
Yeah,
not,
no,
worries.
It was totally off track from that, but I didn't
No
want
worries.
to talk
Well,
about
how
that.
about this? Next time you're on the show, we'll have you back on, make sure we go down that rabbit hole. But by the way, David Meltzer, incredible. I love watching his content because, to your point, he talks about those hyper-specific things. A sleep coach? Who needs help with sleeping, right? Don't we all sleep? And yet he's taken it down to a hyper specific focus, where now he's looking at, the nitty gritty, the biochemistry of effective sleep. And, I promoted Cardio Miracle here on the show because I started taking that and had better sleep. But I'm sure that if you were to talk to David and his coach, you'd be able to articulate a lot more about why Cardio Miracle and nitric oxide and an improved heart is helping me sleep more efficiently. And instead of just having, by the way, how about this? Instead of just happening into success and not knowing why, a coach helps you see the why behind the success. We all know that one person. Oh, Jimmy's just lucky. He hit the right market at the right time. And that might be true, but ask Jimmy to do it again. And Jimmy's going to be like, oh, I don't know what I did. It just happened. But a coach could show Jimmy why. And that right there, it helps not just show you why, but Brian, tell me about this. Creating repeatable actions, right? You started multiple businesses that were all successful. That, I'm sure, played a role in your success.
I have a book in my bookshelf, and I'm a huge avid reader. It says, once you're lucky, twice you're good. Once you're lucky, twice you're good. I love that book because, you can get lucky once. Doing it twice is a whole different ball game. But I remember what I was going to say a minute ago. We talk about people, coaches telling you about the actual success. You were talking about losing 10. That's actually an accomplishment. If you look at any given year, the IRS will tell us that only 42% of small businesses, which is many millions and down, actually ever make a profit. So right out of the gate, if you have a business making a profit, you're one of only 42% in the country that are making a profit. And then you look at businesses that have ever hit $1 million in revenue, that's less than 6% have ever hit $1 million in revenue. So if you've had $1 million business and you're profitable, you're like a very small percentage point of the people that are actually in business. I call it the badass. You're a badass. If you're in business making money and you're even up near $1 million in revenue, you're a business badass in this country. But too many people can't see that.
All right, Brian, I just looked at the clock. I could talk to you all day long, but I see we're already on the tail end of the conversation, which means we are going to, I think, one of the favorite parts of the show for me, and that is our final thoughts, because this is where we get to wrap the episode up in a nice, neat bow. And if I were to take away, my main overview of today's episode, it is don't feel you have to know and do it all. I went into both business, both weight loss journey, you name the areas, thinking I had to have all the answers. I spent hours reading and what do we call it, Brian? Paralysis by analysis, right? I was scared to take an action because I didn't know which action was the right one to take for me. And as soon as I brought in a coach, it just got clearer. It's like, you know, you go to the doctor's office for your, no, I'm sorry, not the doctors. It's the ophthalmologist, the glasses guy.
Optometrist, yeah.
Optometrist, that's the guy. And they're like, okay, which one looks better? Number one or number two? Number two. That's what a coach does. The coach helps make it so the vision is clearer. You know, instead of just saying, I can't see anything. Now you actually have a nice pair of glasses that helps narrow down exactly what you need to do, exactly how you have to do it. So I'll keep my final thoughts short for today. Brian, I want to hear your thoughts. Also, 2 best-selling books over on the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list. We got to hear all about it. Plus, rumor is you have a pretty darn good podcast on your own, Brian. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I do have a podcast. It's the Dropout Multimillionaire podcast. Most of it is me pontificating on my ideas of business and success. And then every now and then we get a guest in who talks about stuff. I've turned a couple of them into master classes in sales, and our latest one in scaling and exiting a business and building generational wealth. So the Dropout Multimillionaire podcast, got that. I will tell you that getting the coach in is only step one of the process, Brian. And where most people, even if they get to the point where they bring the coach in, the next thing you have to be able to do is to check your ego and listen to the person you're getting advice from. I will tell you from a coaching perspective and the people I work with, the biggest challenge with being a coach is giving somebody advice and them only taking half of it. And then they only take half and it doesn't work. And then they come back and blame the coach. And the coach says, no, you didn't listen to what I said. And they say, yeah, I did. And you say, no, you didn't. You listened to half, your ego got involved, and you didn't listen to the other half. And that's why it didn't work. So getting a coach is good. Checking your ego and listening to them, that's the big part right there. You got to do that.
And I neglected to even ask about the fact that you are a sitting city councilman in Alpharetta, Georgia. Shame on me. We talk about politics here, Brian. I guess that's going to have to be part 2 of the conversation for a different day. Brian Will, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And by the way, if folks want to continue the conversation over on the social medias, where's the best area for folks to reach out?
The Dropout MM is my tagline on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all over the place. BrianWillMedia.com is my website. You can get me any of those places.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we include all those links, Brian, in the show notes. And to the audience listening, you know the drill. Please, when you listen to today's episode, if you got some value from the episode, go ahead and give it a share. When you do, please tag Brian and also tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty. Now, with that being said, you know you can share the show wherever it is you consume the show. So if you listen to it on the podcast, well, go to your favorite podcast catcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever it is you consume your content. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, and also make sure you hit download all unplayed episodes. We have over 840 episodes here of the show, which I guarantee, much like Brian wants to get people interested in coaching, I'm hoping this will get you guys interested in the world of politics and how we can help sell our ideas without having to ask for Mr. and Mrs. Government to give us the keys. So if you want to go ahead and check out those past episodes, which, oh, by the way, that's where the entire archive of the show episodes do live, because only up to I think episode 240, I think it is, over on the video version of the show, can you find those old archives. So if you want the whole library, BrianNicholsShow.com, but to the video version, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is you get your video content, we are uploading the entire video version of the show over there. And one final ask, and that is, folks, to support the people who support us. And that's our sponsors. So Cardio Miracle, yes, they are the best heart health supplement in the world. Please go give them some love. Plus our other sponsors like The Wellness Company, Liquid Freedom Energy Tea, Ebles CBD. Plus we have our good new sponsors, Indie Emporium, and their brand new Michael Scott 2024 40-day plan. And we're back in business shirt. Go ahead, check out all those sponsors over at BrianNicholsShow.com. Brian, any final words for the audience as we wrap things up today?
The energy on this show is amazing, Brian. I appreciate you having me on. This has been fun.
You got it, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. And folks, thank you for joining us. With that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Brian Will. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at BrianNicholsShow.com.